Are you an adult with ADHD who often wonders what the best calendar or planner is? Well, we will be discussing that and so much more in this episode of the ADHD Support Talk Radio podcast. ADHD Support Talk Radio is sponsored by addclasses.com. Sign up now for a free webinar by going to addclasses.com. This is your co-host, Tara McGillicuddy, and I am back today with my co-host, Lynne Edris, and we are going to be talking about planners, calendars, and adult ADHD and all that fun stuff. But before we get started, Lynne, do you want to let people know how they can get in touch with you and who you are? I'm sure most of our listeners know you by now, but...
Sure, but just in case,
yeah,
I am Lynne Edris. I am a productivity and ADHD coach. I help overwhelmed professionals reduce procrastination, improve their time management, and get more done with less effort so that they have more time and more energy for the things that matter most to them. You can learn more about me and what I do on my website. It's www.coachingadvantages.com.
and I'm Tara McGillicuddy. I am the creator, founder of ADHD Support Talk Radio and other ADHD resources. I'm a woman with ADHD, ADHD coach, and I also help people to shift their energy. You can learn more about me by going to my website, taramcgillicuddy.com. So yeah, today we're talking about fun stuff like planners and calendars for ADHD. And we're going back and forth about what to talk about. And I said, this is a topic that people are always looking to find out stuff about. It's when you have ADHD, people want to know what the best planner is, what the right calendar is. And as we're recording this, it's towards the beginning of the year. So I think a lot of people are thinking about using planners because maybe they started using one and stopped, or the calendar frustrated them. So I think it's a very timely topic, but this is something that no matter what time of year people want to know about.
Absolutely. It's something we hear about a lot. And I think anytime I'm doing any kind of event, like webinar, workshop, whatever, and I bring up the word calendar or I bring up the word planner, people will ask in chat, what's the best calendar?
Yeah.
What's the best planner? What's the right, which one should I be using? And I think a lot of that is, it's hopefulness.
Yeah.
We know we need these things, right?
Yeah.
We need tools and we need systems that work for us and with our natural strengths and tendencies to support us, to support our executive function challenges. But everybody needs these tools. Modern life is too complex for the human brain to manage. It really is. So we do need tools that work for us. And calendars and planners are at the tippy top of that list for most of my clients.
Yeah. You know what I found over the years that can set people back and frustrate them, probably myself included, maybe not still, is that people sometimes expect way too much from the tools. They expect the planner or the calendar to make them get stuff done. And that's one of the challenges associated with the calendar and planner, maybe other tools, is their expectation of the calendar, of the planner. And if they have too high expectations, I think that it's not a planner helps you plan. A calendar helps you, know where to be and when to be, but it's not going to give you that motivation. It's not going to usually clarify it. The calendar's not going to clarify. A planner, if you're using it maybe the right way or a way that works for your brain, maybe that can help you clarify, but they're not a lot. That's one of the biggest things I found over the past few decades is people, their expectations of what a planner and calendar, maybe another tool does, isn't practical, isn't right.
Absolutely. Because and I think it's human nature. We're all looking for that magic solution, right? That magic thing. And I think when you have ADHD as an adult, like me and like you and so many of my clients and our audience, you grow up thinking, this stuff doesn't look like rocket science.
Yeah.
And we know that other people know how to do these things, but we always, I hear all the time about, and I remember this feeling like I missed something. Like I missed school the day they explained how to use a planner, or I wasn't paying attention when they explained how to, use a calendar. Like I'm missing something that everyone else has figured out. But I think that whole expectation piece is huge. And I also see one of the things that happens, and I can totally relate to this myself as well, is in the beginning, for a lot of us, that shiny new, sexy
Oh,
new
yeah.
tool, planner, whatever, it is kind of energizing and stimulating, and it does make it easier to actually do the stuff that you
Oh,
plan,
yeah.
right? So in the beginning, it feels like maybe you have landed on something that's got a little bit of magic to it, right?
Yep.
But then, time goes by and the bloom wears off the rose, or whatever that expression is, and
Mhm.
it's no longer shiny, it's no longer
Yeah.
interesting, it's no longer exciting. It doesn't have that same motivating quality. And I
Yeah.
think that that's an important thing to understand, that it wasn't the planner that motivated you. It was having something fun and new, and your excitement
Yeah.
about trying something fun and new.
And there's a
And I'm
lot of
using fun
marketing
with
around
quotey
these.
fingers.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
marketing around these planners. There's a lot of money made around
Mhm.
like the Franklin Covey, whatever the other
All of them.
paper
Right.
planner. Well, now with digital ones.
All the
Yeah, I
apps.
mean,
Yep.
I remember back in 2019, I bought an iPad. I got a good deal on it. I want one and one for years. And I got the iPad pen, and I'm like, I'm going to be organized. I'm going to do this. I'm going to use the iPad. Downloaded planner pages, downloaded this, so whatever. And then it's like, I don't like
Meh.
it. I'm
Yeah.
like, I like to play Candy Crush on my iPad, That's what I was
Right.
using it for. And
Yeah.
other stuff. I do other stuff on my iPad.
Right.
I use it for work. But it just, yeah, I was excited. I'm like, these are pretty. This is that. I'm going to write out on it.
Right.
And I was using for other tools too. I thought I was, but that's not how my brain works.
Right.
And and I remember over the years, back before everything was digital, and getting the whatever planner, the day planner, that, and the pretty pages and that, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'd get frustrated because I'm left-handed and I hate the 3 rings. I hate the rings
Oh,
in a
yes,
binder. When I was
absolutely.
in school, middle school, high school, and all that, I used to get frustrated, because my hand, when I try to write with my left hand, I hit the ring or whatever. So
Yeah.
those things didn't work. So yeah, but everyone else uses them, so let's get one.
Absolutely. So, and there's, I mean, it is, I say, like I say, what's fun, quote, with,
Mhm.
using my quotey fingers, it is like, it's interesting, it's stimulating, it gives us a little bit of hope, it gives us a little
Yeah,
bit something new to try, right? And for some of us, I swear, I think it's our tribe that keeps, like, Staples and Office Depot
yeah,
and all of those sort of office supply places and stationery stores and vendors,
yeah,
like, in business, because we do like to try new things, like we do,
yeah,
like, right? But so it's important to understand that there's a purpose for the planner, and that is planning. The
yeah,
purpose for the calendar is to give you, like, basically a map of your time. There are
yeah,
different ways
yeah,
that you can use both of them, but there really is no magic to either one
yeah,
of them. And if that whole kind of shaking things up and having a new way to use something, or a new tool to use, is part of what helps you feel a little motivated, then
yeah,
finding ways to do that periodically that don't throw the whole system away, that
yeah,
just kind of, we call them micro changes in coaching, and a lot of people have heard that term, but those little tiny tweaks that can make the same old tool feel a little more fun, like,
yeah,
that's all we need to do from time to time. But it really isn't so much about the actual tool as it is about you using the tool
yeah.
and having appropriate expectations for what the tool's supposed to do for you.
What I found over the years that is the best tool for me to use as a planner is a cheap spiral notebook.
Yeah.
Like for me in a regular pen. I mean, assuming I'm better at making sure it's in the same place all the time.
Right.
I'm not using
Right.
eight of them because I've lost it. But for
Right.
me, that's what works best for me. And I've tried all the other tools and stuff. And with, technology now, if there's something I really need, I can take a picture of it or screenshot of it or
Right.
whatever. But
Right.
for me, and then calendars are just so interesting these days because things automatically go into your calendar. Like
Yes.
I've been doing Pilates, and when I sign up, well, it's not automatic, but when I sign up for a class on their app, I can add it to my calendar, like at the same time.
Yep.
When I book, you and I use different booking softwares for our clients and other
Yep.
things. Those automatically get added to my calendars. My calendars talk to each other. But oh crap, when there's something that isn't automatic, it doesn't always go in my calendar. So it's like the calendar of 20 years ago for most people was a paper calendar where you
Mm-hmm.
had to physically write everything in,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know. It's almost like you were more mindful back then. Of course, people with ADD will probably
I
think
think we had to be,
there,
yeah.
right? But that physical process of writing it down, and now most things are automatic. So
Yes.
and when it isn't, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to take 30 seconds to type something in, even
Right.
though I can still
Right.
copy and paste it, or yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, there are so many options, right? What's important is that you do what is natural to you and what's comfortable to you. And
Yeah.
there are like important preferences and tendencies that each of us has that we need to honor too, right?
Yeah.
So if that handwriting process is part of how you process information, that's
Yeah.
part of how you make things make sense to you, how you remember things, how you process things, then there are lots of different ways to integrate pieces of that and still use digital technology kind of because of
Yeah.
the advantages of some digital technology.
Yep.
There are pluses and minuses to everything, of course,
Yeah.
but to expect one thing to be the kind of be all end all do all for you right out of the gate is probably not very realistic, because we
Yeah.
really do need to honor what's natural to us and what's easy to us, and every single one of us has different preferences,
Yeah.
different tendencies, and our lives are different. Right. So as much
I
as I
yeah.
love the writing part, like I can't have my calendar be paper. My calendar needs to be electronic because it needs
Oh
to be
yeah.
accessible to other people.
Oh
But
yeah.
I
Yeah.
do need to honor that handwriting piece. And of course I can't talk. I'm like literally writing in the air as I'm explaining this. I
Yeah.
do need to honor that handwriting piece in other ways.
Yep.
Right. So making sure you have that blend for you. And I think that's the part where a lot of our clients and a lot of people with ADHD kind of have trouble, is they expect the one thing to be all the things.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the odds of that are really not very
Yeah.
good.
No.
And
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. But it's really going in with those expectations that are, realistic, that I think is so important.
Yeah. And one of the things I remember hearing, I think other coaches may have said it over the years, professional organizers and other professionals, that you can only have one calendar, you can only
Yes.
have one planner, and some people, yeah, that makes sense for them to only have that one thing. But I think it's about, okay, if you have 3 different calendars, how's that working for you? Are you getting where you need to go? Are you getting
Right.
there on time? Are you is it working? I mean, that's the thing. When someone
Yeah.
tells me you have to do this a certain way, and not just me, I mean, I think a lot of people with ADHD or just
Right.
humans in general, you can only do it this way. It's like, how is your system working for you? And, back in the day, maybe you only had one calendar, but now all your calendars can talk to each other, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So that I think that's a really good point. One of the things I kind of harp on a lot with my clients and in my groups is changing how you think about those kinds of things, so that everything that you use, every tool you use, every strategy you use, every process you use, you're looking at it with an eye toward like experimentation and
Yes,
analysis,
yes.
right? So giving yourself permission to tinker and play and observe what works.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I'll hear from clients all the time, I have to use this electronic calendar. It's almost always Outlook. I have Outlook for work, or I have this
Mhm.
very specific calendar I have to use for work. I use maybe Google Calendar for my family, and then I have my own personal, whatever kind of calendar. How do I make all these things
Yeah.
like talk to each other? Well, that's going to be different for every single person, but
Yeah.
you're not going to find it if you don't give yourself permission to think
Yes.
about like what's working here, what's not working here. Where do I get myself in trouble? Where do I feel like I have to look too many places to know what's coming up, or where I need to be, or whatever. So that, kind of shifting toward tinkering and experimenting and analyzing is huge.
Yeah, definitely. And in some sense, you have to give yourself a bit of permission to fail at it. Not
Absolutely.
necessarily like, miss an appointment, get fired, or, screw up that
Right.
big, but you have to know what's not working for you
Yes.
in order to figure out what works best for you. So that's the thing. It's an experiment. There's a trial and error, but make sure, you have boundaries, or it's like, okay,
Right.
you know,
Right.
you're
It's
not going to be that
purposeful
late,
trial and
or
error.
yeah,
Right.
but I think
Right.
that's the thing. We want perfection right away, and there's no such
Yeah.
thing as perfection, and there's no one tool, whether it's a calendar, planner, or whatever else it is, that's gonna be 100% of the time.
Right. For everything. All
Yeah.
right. So I think that I love that you brought that up right out of the gate. What are you expecting this thing to do for you?
Yeah.
And then paying attention to, okay, what's working about what I expected this thing to do for me, and
Yeah.
what's not working. And
Yeah.
you're looking at what's not working, not like, how am I failing, or how is this whole thing failing, but really specifically, I always tell my clients, like at the granular level, like
Mhm.
what went wrong here? What was the disconnect here? So every
Yeah.
time there's some kind of a, ball dropped, or, whatever, some kind of a shortcoming in the system or something that doesn't go well, that's an opportunity to learn something about what needs to be tightened up or changed. And
Yeah.
we can't do that if we're always in that all or nothing, it has to completely support me, or I've got to start from scratch somewhere else.
Yeah. And one of the things I talk a lot about with my groups is your why. What is your why? Connecting with your
Right.
why. And a lot of times it's, before you're going to do a project or task, but I think it can also be used before you purchase or start using a new tool like a calendar or
Right.
planner. Like, why did you purchase that? Or why do you want to use it? What are your expectations? What do you want it to do? Or, and sometimes I'm a very energetic person, very intuitive. Sometimes I'll just buy something and I don't have the logical words for why I bought it. It just,
Right.
I was
Right.
drawn to it. But afterwards, I can slow down. I can go through and be like, okay, maybe it was an energetic thing, or maybe, the color, how,
Right.
attention, maybe there was ease, or maybe it was because whoever sold it to me told me it was going to make my life perfect type of thing. Or, but what is your why behind it? Why did you start using it? And what do you want it to do for you? What are the
Right.
expectations? And I think that's something, not just when we first start using it, but
Yes.
when we start getting frustrated, bored, overwhelmed, lose interest in it, what is your why with it? What do you want it
Coming
to do?
back to that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
on a regular basis. And maybe you schedule it in your calendar, your planner,
Yeah,
to do it, type
absolutely.
of
Give
thing.
yourself some reminders. I do
Yeah.
that all the time, right?
And I
Like
think that's one of the
plan
great
it ahead of
things
time.
about working with a
Right.
coach. A coach helps you go back and forth and process that. But also, I mean, you can do it on your own, whether it's journaling or whatever system tools work for you. But instead of just putting it or losing it or having it go under your couch, and I'm speaking from experience. There are things, most of my stuff now I've learned, I mean, there's still things I get that I thought were gonna help me, and that don't work. I mean, that's just human nature. That's just,
Right.
the
Yep. Yep.
ADHD. But
What
and
can
I
you
think
learn?
there can be a shame associated
Yes.
with it not working out, or
We
everyone
were,
else
yeah,
is doing it.
absolutely. We were talking about that before we started the recording. And again, it's as we're recording this, it's January, and I'm hearing a lot of clients talk about, like, I'm using the term like planner shame. So
Mhm.
it's, I'm doing it wrong. I'm not, I bought this great planner. I thought it was going to do all the things and be all the things. And I'm not using all of I'm not writing in all the spots. I'm not using every single piece of it, 100% every day.
Yep.
And then the other part of the planner shame, so that there, it's like the I'm doing it wrong planner shame. And then the other one is like, all the partially used planners so many of us have on a shelf somewhere, or, in a pile somewhere, or in a box somewhere. If you allow it to become shame, that's when it becomes shame. If you can
Yeah.
shift to that more analytical, perspective with it, what's working, what's not working, what do I like about it, what don't I like about it, then every single time something doesn't work, or something falls by the wayside, or you're not using something, or, whatever you would otherwise call, as again, using the quotey fingers, failure, instead it's a learning
Yeah.
experience. That's where you detach shame from all of that, right?
Yeah.
There's no right way, no perfect way, and no wrong way to use a planner or a calendar, as long as you're using it and you're learning something about how to make it work more effectively for you all the time.
Yet
I mean,
detachment is a big thing, because
it's huge.
when we start using something and it doesn't go right, or we get frustrated with it, we're humans, we're going to feel that emotion.
Right.
But shifting out of the shame or whatever the other negative emotions are, and detaching and going like to that analytical part of, okay, what's working? What do I want? And it can take a little bit of getting used to, but you can shift out of it. And what happens is it becomes easier, quicker to shift out of that emotional
Yes.
shame or whatever the negative emotions might be, to going to that practical, detaching, analytical. This is what I want. And we're not saying don't feel any negativity towards your planner or calendar or whatever when it's not working right, but find a way, practice shifting to that analytical mind. Detaching from it can make a world of difference.
It's huge. And Tara's exactly right. And I say this all the time. I'm sure you do as well, Tara. There's a feeling is a feeling. An emotion is an
Yes.
emotion. There's nothing wrong with any emotion.
No.
If you feel bad about your, not using your planner, don't just tell yourself you shouldn't feel bad about not using your planner. Acknowledge it. I feel bad about not using my planner. Then you can hear that. You can do something about it.
Yes.
Right. You can
Yes.
shift into, why am I not using my planner? Like, get curious.
Yeah.
What parts of the planner am I not using? What happens when I don't use the planner? Like, where's the disconnect? Am I forgetting? You
Yeah.
can't solve the problem until you get to the real root underlying cause of what's going on. So not using your planner is a symptom of probably what could be like a whole bunch of little individual problems that need to be addressed. Are you misplacing it? Is it too big to fit in your bag that you carry around? Are you using it somewhere and forgetting to put it, with your stuff before you leave in the morning, for example? Are you just forgetting about it? When you pull it out, does it feel cumbersome? Does it, are you not enjoying the process of using it? Are you feeling like it's an obligation? Like, those are all different things that need to be addressed differently.
Yes.
So
And
if you
these
go
are all
right to
practical things that
exactly.
And what can happen though is sometimes when we get into the shame or the negative emotions, by humans, we don't want to feel bad.
Right.
So what we sometimes do, I think people with ADHD more than the neurotypical, is we shift onto something else that's less
we
painful,
distract
that's more
ourselves.
pleasant, that's
Yep.
less traumatizing, if you want to get, go to that route. But if we can just, take a few deep breaths and stick with it a little bit and go to that analytical thing. We're not saying, don't feel your feelings at all. What we're saying is,
Notice
let's
them.
get to the practical, because people with ADHD, I mean, we can beat ourselves out and shut down and go into, that cycle.
Absolutely.
And it's not just because you didn't use your planner the right way. That was probably, the straw that broke the camel's back type of thing or whatever.
Right.
Let's get practical. Let's detach. And like you said, figure out, what's going on. And what you can do is you can figure out, okay, maybe it wasn't the best tool for me, or maybe it's a tool and I can make a micro change or tweak it so it works better for me. Or maybe it's as simple as setting up a reminder to use it, or figuring out where I left it. Maybe it's
changing where you keep it. I mean,
they're
right, but you can't get to those solutions until you get to what's going on. So instead of, as soon as you catch yourself feeling badly about it, right? As soon, or you start down the shame spiral or whatever that is for you, as soon as you notice that's what's going on, stop and consciously acknowledge what you're feeling. I'm feeling ashamed. I'm feeling bad, whatever's going on in your mind, like make it conscious so that you're not just trying to push it down, and then get curious. I always like come up with your question, but I always just ask myself, like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
Like literally, what's up with that? And that is just, why am I feeling ashamed? What's going on here? And it just takes a second. I mean, you don't have to spend an hour analyzing what's working and what's not working. It really literally takes a couple of seconds, but it shifts you out of that emotional place and into a more logical place.
And
as
that's
soon as
a
you can
very
force that shift, that's huge.
A neutral question. What's up with that, as opposed with what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong now? So So I think it's a more neutral, and you're detaching from it from you, instead of
Yep.
what's wrong with me? How did I screw up? What did I do wrong now? Like, what's going on? So I
Yes.
think that neutral question, and you gave a great example of it.
And it's open. It's an open-ended question,
Yes.
right? Not why did I fail?
Yes.
Not why did this planner not work for
Yeah.
me, but like, what's up?
Yeah.
Like, what's up with this? What's up with all of it? What's up with how I'm feeling? What's up with how I'm using it? Just automatically, if you could shift yourself into some sort of a question that opens you up toward analysis and evaluation, you're going to shift out of that emotional side of your brain
Mhm.
and end that
Yeah.
shame spiral so that
Yeah.
you can actually learn something about, why things aren't going that
Yeah.
well and do something better in the future.
Yeah, and sometimes when you use a question like that, whether you say it, write it, have it written down,
Mhm.
when you say it, when you write it, when you see it, that can trigger your brain to go to that logical, detached,
Mhm.
you know, frame of mind, as opposed to, staying in that negative spiral. So that's something, Lynn gave a great example of a question to use. Maybe you have a question or a thought or something that reminds your brain and the rest of you to shift to that analytical perspective, that detached perspective.
Absolutely. And give yourself permission to do that. It's
Yeah.
okay. And it's okay to experiment, and it's okay to
Yeah.
tinker and play and analyze and revise. Like, so
Yes.
many of us think
Yes.
we have to do something a certain way forever and ever and ever because we decided we were going to do it that way. So building in those points at which you look at, how am I using this, doing this,
Yeah.
whatever, and what can I tweak to make it work better? That's a good thing,
Yes, it
right?
is,
Building
because
in those
yeah.
review points is it's not just like something you can do, it's something you need to plan to do.
Yeah, that you're
Expect.
reevaluating on a regular, ongoing basis. It might be
Yeah.
different for you, for me, for whatever, like, but an ongoing, like, because life changes, your life
Yeah.
changes, your circumstances change, and hey, maybe there's a better tool that fits your brain wiring, or maybe it's just a simple shift. But yeah, it's when you start, I mean, you could schedule it, but especially when you start feeling that negativity in your body associated with the tool, that might be the best time to start, questioning what's up with that, what's going on, is it working, what do I want it to do that it's not doing, what more do I want in my life with this. So these are all great questions and prompts.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with trying something new,
Yes, yes.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's there's only failure if you choose not to learn something. That's my
Yes.
opinion anyway.
Yeah.
Not
And
an easy mindset to shift to when you have
yeah, and
ADHD,
we're
but
always learning. I know you and I are in a lot better shape than we were years ago when it comes to our ADHD
yeah,
challenges,
absolutely.
but we still have them.
Yeah,
But
they don't like
yeah,
complete ADHD doesn't disappear, guys. You just learn how to
ADHD in
manage it.
life, what's the
Right.
ADHD stress? What's the life stressor? So we're not saying we're perfect. We've just found ways to shift out of it quicker or
Yeah,
easier.
absolutely.
And we're still both learning. I mean, yeah, I think
Always,
I'm going to be learning
always.
until I die, maybe even
Yeah,
after
I
that.
hope so. I expect to
Yeah.
be. Absolutely. We're all works in progress,
So
and
Lynn,
we've got to give ourselves credit for that.
is there anything that we haven't talked about today about the calendars and planners and ADHD? Or are there any final thoughts you want to leave people with, or both?
I think what's really important is that you pay attention to what does work for you, and that you really pay attention to when you're going into that sort of the right way to use the planner or the right way to use the tool kind of thinking, right? So if you find that there's a particular section in your planner that's there every day, maybe, but you don't necessarily need to use it every day, or you don't really feel that it benefits you every day, then you're allowed to revise and change
Yes,
how
yes,
you use that planner. You don't have to use it exactly as it is like presented to you, or exactly as it is like created by someone else, right? So really paying attention to what's working and trying to like make more of that apply to the things that aren't working, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Pay attention to what isn't working and get curious about where you can experiment and where you can tinker and what you can play with as you're observing what works well for you. But I think that notion of, experimenting, tinkering, and observing is really important, because it helps you really let go of that all or nothing, black and white, perfectionistic thinking that so many of us have, that makes us feel ashamed of our planners or how we're not using them.
Yeah, great stuff, great reminders. And yeah, I mean, definitely the word like experiment, just that word has positive energy when you said it, getting
Yes.
curious as opposed to, the other words we might use. So I think this was a great discussion. I know people can definitely relate to it because people
I
are
hope so.
always, talking about planners and calendars. What's the best one? What's the perfect one? And what we did is we went deeper into it, to how to really, think about the planner, what to think about, what to ask yourself. So thank you so much, Lynn. And
Thank you.
before we get going, can you give your contact information again?
Yes, you can learn more about me and contact me through my website. It's www.coachingadvantages.com.
And my name is Tara McGillicuddy. You can learn more about me by going to taramcgillicuddy.com, and be sure to stop by ADHDsupporttalk.com, where you can access all our past episodes. And there's a link at the top so you can join our Facebook community. Thanks so much.